Hello and welcome to the video on Intro to Digestion. So this is the first in the new unit here, and what we'll spend some time talking about in this video is just an introduction to the digestive process. So the picture in the video shows many of the different structures in the body that we'll talk about as we work our way through this unit, but this is just a general introduction to many of those concepts. So the first main thing to talk about is that the digestive tract is composed of a series of different parts of the body. If we work through them in order, the oral cavity is first, right? So think of like the mouth. This is the first step of digestion. We'll talk about this a little bit more later on with like the mechanical breakdown of food there. But then you swallow the food down the esophagus, it travels to the stomach, and then the small intestine and large intestine, and then finally the food physically like passes through the end of the body through the rectum. So if we're considering the digestive tract, that's the area that the food like actually physically moves through in your body. The reason this is important is there are accessory organs that are involved in this process, and these are things that contribute to the process of digestion, but the food doesn't actually like physically move through these body parts. So for example, like the salivary glands, they provide the saliva in the mouth. There's helpful enzymes there that start part of the process of digestion. The gallbladder is very helpful when it comes to digesting fats. The liver produces a variety of enzymes that are helpful during digestion. And then the pancreas is an important one that excretes many different hormones. The main one to be aware of with that is insulin, as something that helps to regulate blood sugar. So all of those are like sort of accessory, or think of them as like support organs, whereas the main organs of the digestive tract are the ones listed above that all of the food actually physically passes through as it's going through the process of digestion. So a few key terms to be aware of that we'll use moving forward is the idea of ingestion, or the food entering the body. So you're ingesting the food through the mouth. The beginning steps of digestion begin there with like the mechanical breakdown of the food, and then some of the early stages of the chemical breakdown using some of the saliva. The different mechanical processes is the swirling of the food in the stomach. So you think of like the stomach as like contracting around the food and mixing. We also talked about like the mechanical breakdown of chewing, and also like the use of the tongue to manipulate food. But then the actual term of digestion, right, refers to the chemical breakdown of food. So the main thing that's happening with the mechanical breakdown is it's increasing the surface area of the food, and it's allowing more of the chemical breakdown to take place. If you consider like food before it's chewed, right, the surface area is only on the outside, but as you're chewing the food and breaking that down, it exposes more of the surface area. That's more that's exposed to the chemical breakdown process. That's the real technical definition for the term of digestion is that chemical breakdown of the food that we're having. So another technical term to be aware of is secretion. So this has to do with the release of various things in the digestive process. So we'll talk about the idea of the release of water, the release of enzymes, also the release of buffers. So depending on the amount of chemistry that you've taken in the past, or I guess how some of the bio is presented to you, you may be familiar with the term of buffers, but one of the main things that has to happen in the body as far as maintaining homeostasis is concerned is balancing pH, and buffers are important for that. So buffers help to resist changes in pH. So they're oftentimes weak bases, and they're things that are used to help resist some of that change if we're consuming something that's acidic. But then absorption is the movement of molecules into the body for use. We'll talk about the connection between the digestive system and the circulatory system, because the nutrients from our food are ultimately absorbed by the circulatory system, and that's how they're distributed throughout the body. We'll also talk about the organs that are important for this. So this is really where the intestines come in. There's a lot of absorption of nutrients and then reabsorption of water that takes place in the intestines. So then excretion is the actual removal of waste. So that is like the final step of the process of digestion. So that waste removal eventually through the rectum. So that's just the final step. It's sort of think of that as the opposite of what we're talking about with ingestion in the beginning. So that takes us through the major parts of this one. Remember, this is just a general overview and an introduction to some of the terms that we'll use as we move through digestion. We'll talk in more detail about the various parts of the process coming up. So thank you for taking the time to watch the video, and make sure you answer the questions at the end.